Is 5:31, so we will call to order our regular August meeting. We do roll call.
Mandy Folks. Here. Julie Owens. Here. Shelby Poole.
Here.
Ryan Sheep.
Here.
Natalie Schober. Here. Jolene Scordell. Here. Rich Washington.
Here.
All right, we'll move on and ask Mandy to read our WLA mission and vision.
Yes, the mission of WLA is to utilize leadership-based programs and strategies grounded in solid research, combined with the demonstrated success of core knowledge curriculum as a basis of a rigorous overall educational program that builds strong skills in math, reading, literature, writing, music, science, and technology. The vision of WLA is to be a school where students and graduates become exceptional leaders and are prepared to take on the academic and leadership challenges that they will face in high school and beyond.
Thank you. And then it says that you're the presenter.
I know, we've never done it before. So 3.1 is approval of meeting agenda. So is there a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda?
Can I make a...
Okay. I second that motion.
There's been a motion and a second to amend 6.4, approving June and July financials for the Finance Committee report. All those in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries.
All right, and the next one, 3.2, is approval of July 27th meeting minutes that
Do
were
we
included
still
in our
need to
packet.
approve the agenda for tonight? Since she just did an amendment.
Well, we approved an amended agenda.
Okay, got it. Perfect.
So this is Cassidy's first time putting together a meeting minutes, so thank you very much, you did a great job. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes for July 27th, 2022 that were included in your packet.
I'll second.
Go ahead.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the July 27th, 2022 meeting minutes. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. All right, do any members of the board have a conflict of interest to disclose tonight? Okay. There are no public comments for this evening. So we will move into item 6.1, board report. This is my first night, so there's not much to report on, other than we do want to welcome Richard Washington to the board and officially vote him in as a seat member for a parent representative.
So actually I think, and it came to our attention that we didn't officially accept Shannon's resignation last month either, so maybe we can do a dual. Would love to appoint Richard Washington to the parent seat on the board and accept Shannon Kelly's resignation from the board at our last meeting.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second that one.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to instate Richard Washington as a parent seat board member, as well as accept Shannon, last name? Kelly's resignation from the board. All of those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Okay, so we will move right along to our director's report.
Well, some of you may have noticed that it's much shorter than usual. It was terrifically hard to do that. But Shelby and Mandy met with me a couple weeks ago. And Shelby showed me a sample agenda that was very short and concise and suggested that maybe I go that direction, as well as not talking as much as I usually do. So I'm happy to learn from this. So it just feels weird after all these years, but we're going to do it. So under instructional leadership, all staff workshop is full steam ahead. It's going great, in my opinion. Teachers feel like it's going pretty good also. All right.
A lot of info coming at us.
Yeah. Second bullet under instructional leadership, as you can see, we're headed towards being a core knowledge school of distinction. Thus, our professional learning communities for PLCs will have a tight focus on working towards that goal and using data to inform instruction. And then the last bullet in that area, same strategic planning goal, but we'll look at the MCA scores in a second, and I'm certainly very encouraged by the gains that our kiddos have made, but we've got a ways to go. So Financial management, very good news on that front, which Brenda will talk to us about, but we were able to put away $160,000 additionally into our fund balance at the close of this 21-22 school year. Currently, we're on target now for meeting our projections, so we're gonna maybe adjust the budget, but we're in a good place. Julie, you got a funny look on your face, you okay? Okay. And then under communications management, another goal of our strategic planning is to provide a safe and healthy learning environment. A couple of the things I really want to bring to your attention is K&S Music are stepping forward, and they're really going to be offering a lot of opportunities for our kids, including string ensembles, percussion, group and private guitar, and ukulele lessons, and group and individual piano lessons. And then the city of Woodbury, we're moving forward. Hopefully we'll have a memo of understanding for you guys to approve at the September meeting to use our facilities. Okay, and then the MCA data is the next page. The state will release the state averages and all these subject areas and grade levels tomorrow. Thank you, Natalie, for looking that up. But as you can see, in grade 3, 20% increase in reading, 24% increase in math. Those are huge gains. Similarly in grade 4. Grade 5, we have some things to look at in both reading and math. Grade 6 made good and great gains. Grade 7, we have some things to look at, and grade 8, terrific gains. Some of the things that we'll look at in grade 5 and grade 7 are curriculum alignment. One of the things, Ryan, that we have found out is that sometimes our teachers fall short of teaching the entire math content, and then they're tested on that in mid to late April, and they haven't finished all their curriculum yet. So getting that aligned has turned out to be pretty important, as well as practicing on daily or at least weekly for some of those MCA's questions. I also put some longitudinal data on there because I think for those of you that have a longer history with the school, such as Mandy, you can almost see where in 2016-17, for instance, when we saw some drops in some of this consistently across the board, it seemed like the school had historically some leadership, maybe drama at that time. And then we started bouncing back, then we hit COVID, but I think the important thing to see in the longitudinal data is that we are coming back strong. So kudos, huge kudos to our teachers who have been working hard with data to turn these scores around. So we'll get there with grades 5 and 7, but I'm pretty pleased with the results. And that concludes my director's report.
Good job. All right. Any questions for Kathy? All right. We will move on to the financial report.
Just in time.
Oh, good.
She just got in.
Okay. I don't know if she can hear us, but maybe,
Are you able to hear us?
so, you know, we're gonna turn her up.
I'm gonna come home.
Yeah.
You can't tell if she's moving. Brenda, do you mind just talking really quick? Okay, it's just pretty quiet. We just got to the director report, so we're ready for you, or the finance report. So we're ready for you, even though you can't see us. We have a little bit of a different setup. So, is she able to share her screen?
Yes.
Okay, so you should be able to share your screen and kind of go through the report, and we'll talk loudly if we have any questions.
All right, sounds good.
Julie, will you hit the lights for this? Thank you.
Is she a co-host? I'm not sure. I logged in with her.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to give me sharing rights. I
Okay.
guess. From now.
All right, you should be able to now.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Brenda Cass with Bergen KDV, and I'm presenting the June 30th preliminary financials for the fiscal 21-22 school year. And keep in mind, these are preliminary. The school's audit is scheduled for the middle of next month, and so there may be a handful of changes that will take place before the audit starts. I'm going to scoot down to the page 1 of the executive summary. And just a reminder that we started the last fiscal year with an original budget of 683 ADMs. Our revised budget at the end of the fiscal year was 634. We actually ended the fiscal year with an ADM of 635. So we ended based on budget, real accurate with our enrollment projections. The school's budget surplus was going to, that we budgeted was 1302, and then we deficit spent the community service fund of 36,200, and then that projected fund balance would have been 1,897,000 or 27% of expenditures. Our projected days of cash on hand as of June 30th is 105 days, so well above our requirement. So we are 100% complete. The cash balance at June 30th was 1,992,000, just short of 2 million, up a little bit from the previous month. Our state aids receivable due from MPE is at 378,000. These receivables will be paid back here at the end of August, September, and October. So we will see our cash balance start to go up now at the end of each month here as we go. This typically is in the fall, this typically is the time of year when your cash balance is highest. Our revenues at the end of the fiscal year were at 100.3%, and expenditures were underspent by a little bit, and we were at 97.5%. So some savings in.
Went over anything.
Oh, sure. No, I just talked about the net income year to date. That will maybe change a little bit because we are still making several entries during your audit. But I'll go over the balance sheet really quickly. The cash again was at just short of 2 million. We have due from the building company of 100,000. Our state aids receivable is 378,000. And we also have some federal receivables, about 88,000. So when we start receiving these funds here at the end of this month and into September and October, our cash balance will go up. Our revenues exceeded expenditures at June 30th of 160,259. So it looks like we did much better than budget. And I'll go into the income statement. And I'm just going to scoot right down to the bottom because I do have July financials to go over too. But overall, on the summary, you can see that our revenues were slightly better than budget, 100.3%. And we also had expenditures savings at 97.5%. And you can see that we had some under expenditures slightly in salaries and benefits, some in purchase services, and it was very, it was savings in many different line items. We went through the financial committee meeting. We did highlight that it wasn't just one area or another. It was several line items in your budget that were underspent. Now, we typically do see this happen when we have some, these federal funds to spend right now. And so a lot of times those take priority so that we don't lose those funds. And so we're seeing some general fund savings in many of my schools, but this is not uncommon. And then adding that 160,000 to the fund balance, if that's your net income savings, that would increase your fund balance to almost 30%. So a good end to the fiscal year. I'm going to go down this contracted services page. You can see that, again, there were a handful of line items in this budget that were slightly underspent or overspent, but overall under budget by about 10%. Any questions about June financials?
No.
Okay, and it does look like we had quite a savings, but the general rule is if you're within 2 to 3% either way of your budget, that's really doing great budget management, and we're within 2.5%, so we're doing really well. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing that report. And I don't know if you want to have an approval of that one, and then I'll share the live reports.
No.
Okay. I will bring up the July reports. Okay, so along with these financials, along with the financial presentation, we have the July 31st financial statements. So this would be the first month of fiscal 22-23, starting July 1. So I'm going to go down to the executive summary. And summary of the key financial indicators for this fiscal year. Our original budget projected that we would have 724 ADMs. Our working budget still matches the original budget. Until we make changes to the working budget, we will maintain that we have that budget until we have that kind of sorted out. It's still early in the process. We're waiting for kids to show up for school. And once we do that, once we have that final enrollment, we'll change the working budget. We're slightly under our budget projection. And so we are watching that closely and already kind of doing some kind of behind the scenes work with that. But, and so we're aware of that. And for next month's financials in August, we will have that working budget adjusted based on that actual enrollment when school starts. So we did budget to surplus in general fund by $255,000, and we are going to spend about $7,500 out of the community service fund. So projected fund balance then would be about 28%, but we know that because we have a savings coming out of next year, that would even be a little bit higher. And we do have a projected days of cash on hand of 92 days. So very strong in cash so far. So 1 month into the fiscal year, about 8% complete. And of course, cash balance is very similar, just slightly under last month at $1,929,000. And then our stated receivable is still the same number because we will not receive those funds until the end of August. So that number will still stay strong. So revenues received at the end of July were about 8%, and expenditures dispersed were only about 2.6 because we're just starting up the fiscal year. Not a whole lot of activities in July financials. Some highlights: your lease aid application was approved as of August 1st. Your furniture and equipment is overdue, and that's. No, I think that might be, this might be an old message, but floor cleaner purchases in there. And the audit is scheduled for September 15th and the 16th. You can see on this next dashboard where your budget is coming in and where our net income year to date is $441,347. And that's because we have revenue flowing now. And your revenue will even go up because your lease aid was approved. And these charts are pretty non-eventful because we're just starting with July. We don't have the enrollment information in here yet. We'll start that in October. So going into the balance sheet, we have started the new fiscal year, so we have state aids receivable of $378,000. We also have current receivable of $159,000 for the current fiscal year. So we wrap up last year and we're already having a holdback for this year. So we track those, and you can see that as we pay out the salaries for the summer, our liabilities go down. And they should go away at the end of August, the salaries payable. So net income revenues exceeding expenditures are at $441,000. This next page is the income statement of revenues and expenditures. So you can see here we have the original budget of 724 ADMs. We would maintain that. This will probably change next month as we find out what that true number is when kids, for the final, when school starts. So we'll adjust these numbers. And we're hoping that it's close to our projection. But this then would become, well, this is a working budget, but there are no changes. I didn't make any changes here. So it's all the same. But you can see that there's not a whole lot of activity, just some state aid revenues. And then income statement. Your biggest line item in your income statement right now is your lease payment and some supplies. And salaries are pretty low. But this is when we spend a lot of the instructional software and a lot of these upfront expenses like office supplies and so on, instructional supplies. These expenditures tend to be higher than other line items at the beginning of the school year. Overall, revenues exceed expenditures at $441,000. And projected fund balance is 30%. The next page shows us kind of an idea of how that cash flow is going to work this next school year. And because we have a projected savings at the end of the year, even though we have that holdback, we're still projected to have a little over $2 million in cash flow at the end of the school year. Very strong cash flows. And that's what we have for July financials. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Rich has a question.
What does ADM stand for?
What is it?
What does ADM?
It stands for average daily membership, so it's how many, like the average amount of students that were enrolled for at that point in time during the year.
Okay, and then PU underneath it?
I couldn't hear that question.
743, what does PU stand for?
What does PU
Pupil
stand
units.
Oh, I'm sorry, pupil units.
Okay.
So when we project ADM, when we weight it, that becomes a pupil unit. So your 7th and 8th graders have a higher pupil unit, so you get more funding when it's the ADM is weighted. So that's why it's higher. 743 pupil units is what the state aid is based on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sure, that was a good question. So if your enrollment's a little off when school starts, you hope that the 7th and 8th grade stay strong so that you get that extra pupil unit. It helps anyway.
All right.
Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jolene?
All right, so the Finance Committee had their regularly scheduled meeting Wednesday, August 10th, and it was at 9 a.m. It was a virtual meeting. At this meeting, we reviewed the financial statements. Brenda did that as well, and as you heard, things are doing very well and very on track. She discussed that there's some restructuring of BKDV, and we talked about that a little bit, and that Bridget would be moving to another team, and so Brenda would be staying with us for now. And we reviewed those enrollment projections to talk about our financial projections because of those, and talked about staffing additions with custodial and paraprofessionals. And we decided that we recommended not to go forward those at this time, but to wait a little bit for our enrollment to go up. We also reviewed the recommended change in health plans. Nancy Baumann discussed that with us, and the committee does recommend that we move forward with that proposed change. And we discussed a little bit moving our meeting in September to Thursdays. I'm still waiting to hear back from the governance committee if we can do that. And our meeting ended at 10:20 in the morning. Our next meeting will be September 14th at 4:30 p.m. as of now, unless we change. Are there any questions in regards to the finance committee meeting?
I have another acronym question. Is BKDV a bank or?
That's,
So they're our finance manager. So instead of like doing all of our own accounting, we outsource that to a firm called DKDVA, and I'm not exactly sure what all of the things stand for. It's a bunch of last names. Like
I figured it was outside company.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was a bank
Yep.
or.
Yep. No, sure. So Brenda.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, so Brenda is an employee of BKDVA, so that's who we work with.
okay. Anything else? All right, then I'd like to make a motion to approve the June and July financial statements and the August Finance Committee minutes.
So moved.
There has been a motion and a second to approve the June and July financial statements and the August Finance Committee meetings. All of those in favor say yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All of those opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, we'll move to governance.
Yep, so I'm gonna kind of go through all my governance things together, just through the committee minutes. So we'll kind of cover all the little pieces of governance with the minutes. So we met on Thursday, August 18th at 9 a.m. virtually. And we talked through a couple different policies that just needed tweaks or updates based on changes in state statutes. So policy 515 will go into first reading just so we can update based on an update in a state statute. So you'll get the changes that we made at the next meeting for second reading, so we can solidify those. Dr. Mortensen will be updating some MCA requirement documentation that we just need to do annually, so she'll put that on the website. We reviewed 709 for some training that we are required to do with students based on like bus safety, but I think ultimately we decided we didn't need any changes. It was going to be like a one-word change that was already kind of covered by the policy, so we won't make any changes with 709. And then we reviewed 612.1, which we had already reviewed earlier this year, but we just looked at it again for grant purposes, or
What one was it, 612?
was the title.
Yeah.
Yeah. But everything looked good, so that'll be going up on the website as is from March when we approved it. But then our big discussion at this meeting was the VOA topics that we have been kind of tasked with discussing at governance and then bringing back to the board. And so the first one was reviewing access to counsel by the board. And we actually, at the governance meeting, discussed how, as a board, we had kind of reviewed this in June or May, just kind of discussing as a board if that was something that we wanted to change. So for newer members, I'll just kind of review. There was a motion in 2015 by the board back then, I think it was 2015, that legal counsel or school paid legal counsel would be limited to board chair and executive director access, and then any other board members would kind of funnel their questions through those two members to limit costs or, repetitive questions to our lawyers. And so that motion was approved back then, and it's just stood till now. And so we discussed it a few months ago if that was something we wanted to change based on some things that unfolded with concerns by board members on that access. And at that time, no board members wanted to change anything. So as a governance committee, we kind of just stuck with that. And if in the future a board member wanted access to legal counsel, they would go to those two people. And new board members would be made aware that that's who they would go to if they wanted to seek legal questions or anything. But if in the future anybody wanted to propose a motion to change that and change access to the board, legal counsel by the board members, they would be able to do that. They would just need to find the support for that motion. So does that make sense? Is there any questions on kind of just the motion from 2015 stands, executive director, whoever the chair is who you go to if you have questions.
I think that it was 2017, 18 school year, so that was the fall of 2017. And it was put in place really for that redundancy, so that, Ryan isn't calling the lawyer and asking him something, and then you just called him yesterday on the same thing, and now we've got double the bill. So it's just streamlining. And then I know in recent years, I think Jason requested access to one of the lawyers, because he had, as facilities committee lead, he had some questions about property years, the expansion, so that was easy to pass them off. So it's not that others can't use the lawyer, just we want to be careful about the bills and then forward that out. So
that was kind of covering 6.5.2 on your agenda too. That was just that VOA recommendation that we review access to legal counsel. So it sounds like there are no motions to change that. Governance reviewed it, so we have completed that piece of the VOA timeline. The second one that we kind of reviewed for August was our recommendations for a policy regarding student discipline, which already exists for just student discipline in our school, so 506. And to what degree the board of directors gets involved. And this is actually already outlined in that policy. So we did go back through and we just highlighted where the board would get involved in student discipline. So as board members, you can go back and review that. I can kind of briefly state when the board would be informed of discipline or when we would become involved. So we would be notified if there was a suspension longer than 5 days. Kathy would let us all know that. That's just part of our policy, and we reviewed this policy based on other schools too, so that's a pretty standard thing. We would be made aware of any expulsions because we're a big part of that process. That can't happen without us, so that would definitely be something we would be involved in. And then in our discipline policy, we also have that the executive director may notify the board chair of any high-profile discipline issues, who then would disseminate that information as needed. And that's for more just kind of publicity, and if anything came out, we would be aware if we got any emails about the incident. So that's kind of why that piece was in the discipline policy as well. And then the other kind of second fold to that was VOA kind of recommending that we review kind of if a board member's child was part of a discipline issue that the board was involved in or anything like that. And we basically reviewed that, if I had a child, which isn't my position, that child would be subject to the discipline policy just like any other child that went here. And if it got to the point where my child was involved in a board decision based on discipline, I would need to excuse myself from that decision because it would be a conflict of interest. So, I might have my parent hat on and then my board member hat on, but those do not get mixed until there's a conflict of interest from a board level with discipline issues. So we are not recommending any changes to the policy. You can review it if you have any more concerns, and then let the governance committee know. Okay. So then we plan to meet in September again and kind of talk through some regular business and then more of these fun topics. So I'll get back to you guys on more things from VOA. But we'll meet September 8th at 4:30, and it will be virtual with maybe an on-site component for some people. essentially.
All right.
Questions? So I will make a motion to accept August Governance Committee minutes and enter policy 515, the protection and privacy of pupil records, into first reading.
A second.
We are going to do a roll call vote on this, just since it is kind of a big one for the council of the board and that kind of stuff. So if you will lead us through a roll call vote.
Mandy Folks,
Yes.
Julie O's,
Yes.
Shelby Poole,
Yes.
Ryan Sheik,
Yes.
Natalie Schulberg,
Yes.
Jolene Skordal,
Yes.
Rich Washington.
Yes.
Motion carries. Mandy, facilities
Yeah.
committee.
Well, this will be an exciting one. So we have a lot to discuss. We have our committee minutes as well, but I think that most everything that's in the facility committee minutes will be covered in our presentation. So I guess at this time, I would love to turn it over to Jason. I'm going to turn it to you, and you maybe introduce Sean and Paul, and Cassie can get your presentation up here. But I'm really excited to kind of see this project come full circle.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is there a camera? Are there people
Yes.
online?
I can't talk.
Just assumes.
I don't know if we should.
Do you want to turn that camera
Do
to
I move
Jason?
it?
Yeah, just move that cart so that it.
Well, I can
yeah.
just stand in.
Yeah, or you can stay in the middle.
There you go.
This isn't awkward at all.
Oh, is there 10 over here?
Yeah, so thanks, Mandy. I commented before this meeting that it's a little awkward for me sitting in the audience here after 5 years of sitting on the board. But yeah, so for those who are kind of new to the board and maybe new to the facilities projects and the things that we've been doing here, and potentially for the benefit of those online, I'm not sure who's there. But I'm going to run through just a brief history of how we got to where we're at today and where we came from. And then after we go through that stretch, I'm going to turn it over to Sean. And Sean will carry us through where we're at right now and what we've been doing with the project next door and what the future looks like for the rest of our facility space. Before I do that, I want to, why don't you guys step up and just introduce yourselves real quick. These two gentlemen are very key players in the development and build out of our gym space next door. And Sean has been with us from this, pretty much from the start of this. Sean is our facilities consultant. And I say that we couldn't have done this without him, and it's the truth. So thanks for everything you've done, Sean, for sure. And Paul actually has been very instrumental in making sure that this build out has gone the way that it has. We, managing through interruptions with, COVID, managing through interruptions with supply chain. We still have a couple of supply chain issues that are holding us up, but just, keeping things on track and keeping things moving it's come together very nicely. So I want maybe just tell people who you work with and kind of what you do here, and then we'll just jump right into it.
Sure. Yeah, maybe we can kind of do all, so that camera's over here, that'd be nice. Well, I'm Sean Smith. I am, Jason already introduced me, and same with Paul. Yeah, I've been with you guys since probably 2017, and toured every commercial building in the city of Woodbury and then some, and then we landed here. And so, as schools grow, it really is a step-by-step process. We started out with the first 2 floors, made some improvements. The 3rd floor, and so now we've got the whole site now. So, and with that, I was going to go through the presentation. Is that okay?
Actually, I just want you to do introductions real quick, and then I'm going to run through history, and I'll pass it back over to you guys. So
I'm with Wilmer Capital Management, and we're a commercial real estate firm, and I've been there for 15 years. I've worked with a handful of charter schools. I've started a charter school, and that was a 5-year process, and now I'm working to potentially start another one. So have some broad educational experiences when it comes to school and commercial real estate.
And I'm Paul Renke. My company is Silver Oak Development. I've known Sean and the Willimer organization for easily 9 or 10 years, maybe more than that, 12 years. My role with this project was fascinating and really enjoyable because I got to support Sean and Willimer and the WLA organization to ensure that we do the best possible project next door on the construction development and all the issues associated with orchestrating architects, contractors, suppliers, vendors, city staff, even internal staff to make decisions properly. My side job is the mayor of Oakdale, so all that city stuff helped with some of the issues to make sure the smoothness went well. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm going to turn it to you in a minute, but I just want to run through for everybody a little bit more detailed progression of how we kind of got to where we're at today. So for those of you who have been with this school for a while and remember this, we used to be over by Costco in a building which is now purchased and zoned in St. Paul School District. I'm not even sure what they're doing with it any longer, to be honest. At that point in time, our enrollment was somewhat on the decline. And we were working through a lot as a school. We were working through a lot as a board and as a school community. And we constantly had the question of, where are we going to be next year, right? And it was this annoying question that led me to actually step up and join the board and help try and answer that question for us and find our forever home. And like Sean said, we toured just about every commercial property and you know, around Woodbury, around Oakdale, around all over the place. And we had, you know, some other options, but the minute we walked into this building, we all agreed, I don't know how, but we need to be in that building. And it was through the efforts that Sean brought to the table through negotiating with the landlord at the time, that surprisingly enough, they allowed us to lease 2 floors of a 3-story building. So that got us into our building, and none of us thought it was going to happen, but it did. And the saying that, you know, we used back at that point in time was the old field of dreams, you know, if you build it, they will come. And come they did. Our enrollment spiked, and the next thing you knew, the 2 floors that we were struggling to fill in this building were full, and we needed the 3rd. So our landlords were kind enough to move out of this building completely to give us the 3rd floor. Shortly after that, we outgrew the 3rd floor and needed to start to look at other options to handle the growth that we were experiencing with our school. We didn't even think that purchasing this building was an option for us at the time. And not only were we able to purchase this building, but we were able to bond and fund the building next door as well. This setting here is very unique for us to find this location and build on it like we have. And even over and above the structures that we have now, we were able to negotiate for the fields across the street. And our true dream of building a WLA campus was starting to come to life. And that's where we're at today. It has not been without significant effort and pain and agony at times, but I am so proud of this team and this group that has pulled this together. None of this would have happened if it were not for the administrators and the teachers and the families that have supported this community from the beginning. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sean, and Sean's going to talk us through our new space. And, you know, even touch on some future planning, that we see as potential for across the street and things like that too. I know on your slides, Sean, you have our team listed, so maybe we can start with that.
Yeah, yep. So, if you start back on that first one, on that first slide, it's interesting, a schoolhouse edition, everyone calls that building the gym, and it's just, but the legal, so I'm kind of showing you some of the inside scoop of the legalese of all these documents and everything that I have to deal with every day, and so we have to refer to that building as the schoolhouse edition, which is very old school. Go ahead. So our project team, it starts out, I'll probably say, with the tenant, you guys, Woodbury Leadership Academy. So you guys, the school leases that facility. Per state statute, charter schools cannot own real estate. And so what they do, the way around that is to set up typically an affiliated building company, which is the owner right there, and that's Friends of WLA. So if you see that FOWLA or FOWLA, however you guys want to use that in the future, that is the affiliated building company, which is a nonprofit. So that has its own separate board of board and everything. But Ben Broderick is the president still?
Yeah.
Still the president. So, and then for the Woodbury Leadership Academy side, I just wanted to point out a few folks that were primarily on both, the facilities committee, the board of directors, staff, and then all of the other planning that you guys do. So Dr. Mortensen, Mandy Folks, and Jason Livingston, Jolene has been there from the start, Diane Figs, and then Ben Broderick as well, so he kind of shifted between there. And then I'm considered the owner's representative. Paul Rinke has been helping me out. The architect is Collier's Architecture. David Selinsky is primarily the contact that shows up, was showing up about weekly. The general contractor for this was Roshan Inc. And Stacy Gleason is the project manager, and then Brian Collins, who you probably saw on site pretty much every day, kind of living in the trailer there with a really waxed up Chevy Tahoe every single day. They never got dirty. And just showed up, The legal counsel was Craig Kepler, Best and Flanagan. The bond underwriter who helped us with all the bonds were Bruce Sorensen, Will McIntyre, Robert Baird. And then a lot of people don't often mention this, but the city is oftentimes your partner through this. And there were a lot of times that we had to go to them for basically help and to help solve a problem. So we weren't always considered a principal use within the zoning, or there'd be some signage issues that didn't conform to code. And then also all the things that we're doing with the lots on across the street. So they were truly partners with us, helping us navigate the city code and the city council as they eventually saw tremendous value in what you guys were doing on this site. So, and then from just a project overview, I mentioned before the owner is Friends of WLA. The address is 8089 Globe Drive, and it's all one address. So right now this is all one address, even though you've got two separate buildings. And I'll show you kind of why that matters later. But I wanted to point some of this stuff out because as a board, there are these technicalities that not a lot of people think about, that as you guys determine reasons for doing things, this is kind of, some of the things that we talk about today are dictated a lot by city code or what you have in the bonding document. So the total building size between the two buildings is about 122,000 square feet. This building is labeled Building A, and then Building B is the new gym building. So this building is 68,000 square feet. The new building, Building B, is 54,000 square feet. And then the site size, so the total site that you guys own is in 3 separate parcels labeled by the 3 lots there. So total is a little under 11 acres. with those 3 separate parcels. So the total project, we call this the sources and uses, and so the sources of funds are your bonds, and that was just under 22 million. And then what constitute as the uses, those should equal out. And so the site, Building A, that acquisition was just 11.75 million. Building B, or the gym, was 9.1 million. And then you have all these soft costs that include my fee, all the architecture costs, the civil costs, permit costs, and Department of Education certifications, everything else. So those are what we call the soft costs. And so I'm going to hand it over to Paul here, and Paul will talk about some of the highlights, and if we're always being honest, there's always challenges, so go ahead.
So I've been able to be in this business of real estate and development for over 30 years, getting to be a contractor with a company called Ryan Construction. I was with corporate stuff, IDS Financial Advisors, American Express. I have my own business now, and I've been able to gather all these experiences and failures at sometimes to get to the point now where I can confidently say that the group that was in this, as far as the teamwork and the communication, super special, super talented, Roshan Corporation, Colliers, Wildermere, you guys, just phenomenal. So that teamwork and communication makes all the difference in the world, and we scored a huge hit on this project. It's been really, really gratifying. We're also able to hit the market with unbelievably low borrowing costs. What you guys were able to do with these bonds allowed us to increase the size and the quality of the building and still maintain a very, very reasonable debt service. Ultimately, we had the budget, we had the design, we built it, and at the end of the day, it's still under budget. Even with that original scope, the 2 floors, and then all of a sudden, I forget exactly what day it was, but that enrollment is going through the roof. Let's add that 3rd floor, let's expand.
Kathy's still waiting for her pool.
Yeah, never did get the pool.
You can be waiting. But so we added the floor, and then this crazy thing over here on the right side, the challenges, the storm shelter. This school is the first school that I'm aware of in Woodbury and on the greater East Metro that was able to, or was required to do the storm shelter. That cost, I recall it being $600,000 in that ballpark, but it had to be done to allow the students and teaching professionals to be safe should there ever be a storm. And really what it does is creates a space within the building that has a 2-hour protection status of 150 plus mile an hour winds, totally isolated from the rest of the system. So all the rooftop units can get blown off, these kids and you guys are going to be safe. There's going to be power, there's going to be air ventilation, there's bathroom facilities. It's quite, in my opinion, over the top, and the state really pushed it and made it difficult, and it's going to be the future organizations may not be able to take advantage of it like you did in this climate. So I think there's going to be a push, but you guys have it. The relationship with the city was great. They just came through, the mayor, the city administrator, the building official, the assistant city administrator came through and did a development tour, and just were enamored with the technology that we used for the new building. So a 3-story panel of precast, cast-in-place concrete with brick on the outside that makes it look like the old-fashioned stuff that we've got in this building. They were kind of blown away, so it was really cool. With that, they have the partnership opportunities. So the inside potential recreation stuff and the outside potential recreation partnerships, how that unfolds is going to be fun to watch. I wish you all the best. And then that goes along with the school exposure. There's also the new logo and mascot. And the highlight, again, I'm going to just highlight Roshan Construction, the contractor, general contractor. Stacy Gleason, project manager, Brian Collins, superintendent, just terrific. And then Nick on the leadership, Nick Reynolds on the corporation, superb. Challenges though, tons of them. The delays for the school involve the supply chain. Everything from a basic standard wood door, believe it or not, we couldn't get them quick enough. We paid, I recall, $12,000 to accelerate the shipment and pull ours out of the queue, get them on a truck, and bring them up here so we can get these darn doors installed, because it was just getting all fouled up on the supply chain. Storm doors. Some of you heard a lot about that. Storm doors and the frames to go in that special gymnasium just arrived in total 2 days ago. So they're being installed still. Appliances, all the concession equipment, everything just got hoofed up. And I think some of it's BS, because these people use the supply chain and COVID as a reason for being too overloaded sometimes. Nonetheless, we couldn't get the stuff. And so, again, I'm really appreciative towards the Roshan folks and their in-house people to keep on marching down that path. You recall, cold as can be last winter. And when it comes cold and there's a delay, remember the delays, kind of goes into the COVID. So our precast panels that I mentioned were coming out of Hawley, Minnesota, way up by Fargo. Terragon's a company. The precast plant is predominantly staffed by the Mennonite folks. And it happened. They caught COVID. The plant caught COVID. So boom, 4 weeks down. Came back up, took a week, in 3 days I think. Started producing, we got a couple of panels, and then boom, it shut down again because of the COVID. So as that 8-week, 4-week, 8-week, 10 weeks, and technically even 12 weeks, pushed us into the cold weather for the general conditions. We had to heat, plastic enclosures, all this stuff was happening. So I say early on that we hit the budget, and we're under budget. Even with this type of stuff, just goes to show the teamwork and also the contractors. Talked a little bit already about the storm shelter, and then the renaming of the
Paul, can you just mention that you talked about the storm shelter, this probably being the first one on the East Metro. It's probably the only storm shelter in the state that has a whole nother level above it. So most storm shelters are kind of mostly free and clear, so.
And we explored,
complexity.
do we go down underneath and create a basement? Do we do something separate on the side, trying to figure it out? And for this situation, it just made the most sense financially and space-wise to create that enclosure and still give you the space up on top as usable classroom space.
Do you have any idea why all of a sudden that was a requirement?
State of Minnesota.
So the code changed and any future schools will have to do this?
Yep. Yep.
Another thing too is, with that, there was a delay because we wanted guidance from the city, who's never had to deal with this. And so they're looking at us, be like, you guys are the smart people, right?
Yeah.
So we essentially got, so between the building engineers, the civil, or the structural, the architect, it was very much a learning process to figure out how to design something like this. So you guys have a very highly technical, cool building to share.
In showcase.
And showcase, and that, just to make it functional. So you've got the 400 kids, 500 kids potential, plus professional staff in a room. Do we put a generator up in it? Where does the generator go to serve power for all this stuff? And then somewhere along the way, the idea came up is, no, let's do batteries. So we did batteries instead, and the city said, fine, because the battery is going to serve the purpose of powering up this room for over 2 hours. And we just saved a whole bunch of space and complexities outside and took care of the business inside. Maybe one last thing is the challenges of the site, maintaining a really, really safe and very cautious, conscientious site while school is in session. And all that coordination with buses and people and doctor.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, you guys have such a great perspective on all this, but from our school personnel, students would get off the buses in that cold weather, and it was just like whiplash. You'd get off the bus, and they were riveted on the welders in the second floor windows, or the guys laying cement, kids just up against the glass watching all this happen. And I remember one kiddo, second grade maybe, complimenting one of the cement guys, saying, "That's a really nice curb you got laid there," I mean, it's just been so much fun from the kid perspective, I think, to mention that.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
my kids, because they could see the cranes. Step back down.
The cranes, yeah, that was incredible.
We're here to learn.
Yes.
Look for 2 more minutes and then back in your seat.
Could you go ahead?
Oh, renaming of Globe Drive.
Yeah.
There was, I do want to touch on that. We tried to get Globe Drive renamed because it's a private street, which a lot of you might not know, but that Globe Drive is a private drive that's managed essentially by you guys. And the city gave us a lot of reasons why we couldn't, and it was really interesting. But just know we wanted the leadership drive, Jason, or leadership way.
We had a bunch of different options that may have been better than Globe, but nonetheless.
No, that was fine.
I'm talking a lot, so here's, we'll go a little bit faster. The project milestones. No, really, the lease was signed in June of 18. Purchase agreement finalized in October of 20. The closing and funding all occurred in May of 21. Then construction started July 21st, or the 21, with the completion here in August of 22. So, just real quickly, the original schedule, original with 2 stories, 9-month construction. Add the 3rd floor, took a delay for a construction drawing revision, but once that got done, the schedule became 10 months. So at that point, it was August 2 through June 15, 10 months. So we lost a month by adding another floor. In real life, by the time we actually got going, it was July, and then we're completed, so it's about 12 months. Think back about that COVID stuff, and really the driver of that schedule, that critical path, was that panel, because we needed to get the building enclosed before anything had happened inside. And almost 10 and a half, 11 weeks of COVID downtime, just waiting for the panels. We did a bunch of stuff internal, but at the end of the day, we couldn't move forward until those panels came. So at the end of the day, our temporary certificate of occupancy, June of 22, with a final substantial completion in July. We're also really fortunate. I've been talking a lot about Roshan. The other 2 contractors that we talked with to get to the point of choosing Roshan was Welsh and R.J. Ryan, 2 other great contractors in the Twin Cities. We are really blessed with having these competent, high-quality folks, and very pleased that we took Roshan, but we were fortunate to have some competition that they had to step up to the plate to beat. So, with that.
This is what I was saying on this site plan. So, you guys own all these 3 here, these 3 lots. This is what they call an outlot. So the city technically owns that, but this is where all your collateral for the bonds are here. You've got building A and building B, and then you guys own lot 3 and 4 as well. And so these you can do whatever you want with, and it's at some point you're going to find a lot of value in having those lots, as Jolene has asked me for some plans today. So, but yeah, that's...
Sean, can you share for those who may not know how much we paid for lots 3 and 4?
$0. So, yeah, that was a donation.
And at what point in time is the hotel going to go up there?
Right?
We got some competition. So.
Yeah, we had to outbid a hotel chain that was going to try and build on lot 3.
Ooh.
And Matt, your neighbor over there should be somewhat friendly. I know Kathy's working with them, but they're going to help us kind of maintain this place. There's an agreement in place to share some of these costs. So all that's in place. So And if you ever needed to find those documents, those are public easements, and so just in case you guys ever get caught up with your neighbors or something like that, all those agreements are all set online, you guys are good to go, so. And I just wanted to show a few before and after pictures. I thought this was interesting. So this is what was designed. This is what was the architect's rendering, and it's a little hard to see in this light, and this is what was actually built. So you can see the window line in particular. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, so pretty accurate. I mean, the colors are a little off, but yeah. Maybe you go to the next page. Next slide. This is the gym. I think the gym, actually, the actual gym is down here. It turned out better than the rendering. This is way brighter. We were able to bring in some windows there as part of that redesign. And another value add where we expanded the scope. So if you're looking at this and you want to do a presentation, you're kind of subject to the background of the walking track up here and the lights. So we were able to expand that. Paul was able to work with a couple contacts. We've got stage curtains, lighting, and sound system coming for you guys. And also underground or under stage storage was never a part of the original, so that's part of some of the value add. But yeah, you guys have a really great product. And then this was kind of the start of construction in, let's see here, July. So I think that was the first day that they were out here. And then I just want to show you kind of, this was the basic process for setting up these precast panels. They come in these big sections and they just put them in place, weld them together, and then they work on the next one. So this is your storm shelter right here. This is the gym. This is that third level, and then the commons area right here up in front. And then, yeah, I figured I'd point that out here. This was in the middle process before the gym was done, but concrete floor and all the equipment being hung up. So, and I think that's probably my last slide. So yeah, that was the process in about 30 minutes, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, thanks, Sean. Yeah, it's a multi-year endeavor, but yeah, it's so nice to be finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So, any questions from anybody? I know some of you have been neck deep in this from the start, so you probably answer the questions, but if you guys have any questions at all, or?
I would just like to say what a pleasure it has been to work with Paul and Sean. Roshan has been wonderful, and even on the days, I think there's only been a handful of them where I was crabby about something. Everyone was very extended grace to me. But I just think it went beautifully, and I'm so glad that you pointed out all the team members, Sean, at the beginning of this, because it was all of those parties coming together. Bruce Sorensen, Ann. I mean, there's lots of people that had very important roles all along this journey.
Yeah, it's, in hindsight, looking back at how this came together, it's almost unbelievable the way things lined up as they did. First, the fact that we were able to get into this building at all was, so far out of the realm of possibility that it just didn't even make sense. And then you mentioned the bonding. Right as we're about to go out for bonding, the rates just totally turned in our favor. So we were able to maximize that. So many things just, came together so nicely.
And on the construction bidding side too, that was interesting. We were a project that was ready to go after COVID.
Yeah.
And so for the first time, a lot of the general contractors are like, you guys have to pull the trigger. This is the first time where subs are asking me if I've got a project for them. Whereas, you know, the generals are always, I'd say probably the past 5 years, they've been begging for subs to come on there because everyone's just busy and there's a labor shortage, as we've all heard about. So there was that weird moment of time where things kind of came together and we were able to lock into really good pricing.
All right.
Anything else? Otherwise?
I feel this is kind of surreal because I was on the city council when you got approved to be in this building. And then I walked in one day as a building sub and never left. And now I'm on the board and officially work for a WLA, not sub, after that first part of the year. And now I have a classroom in that new building, so it's just kind of crazy.
All right. Well, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you guys for all your hard work and for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
So I will make a motion to accept the August Facility Committee minutes as presented via presentation.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to accept the August Facilities Committee minutes. All of those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, I'll hand it back over to Dr. Martinson with a strategic plan update.
Actually, I feel like I already did that within my report.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought you might just talk about how you kind of tried to put our big, long strategic plan into a few goals to try to kind of keep our eyes on. Because I feel like we had kind of a lot of bullet points of things we were including in our strategic plan, and you kind of brought them all together. You may have put that last one.
Yeah, I did, but
Okay. All right.
yeah, I think we're not going to talk more about all that.
All right.
I think we plan to talk about the annual meeting, and that'll also kind of talk
Okay,
about
perfect.
strategic planning.
YMCA contract was included in your board packet. They provide our before school and after school care as well as using our facility for their summer program. Any questions or comments?
I
think they've been, go ahead.
I don't know. I was just going to say, just based on observations and reading through, just making, I mean, it seems like they're hitting everything that they're asking for or we're agreeing to in this contract, but just one thing is just closing their area and picking up their area and just making sure that they're maintaining our facility, and especially if they move over to the new building, like, you know, it's beautiful and it's brand new, and we don't want a summer to go by where we're not initially the ones maintaining that beauty. I don't know. So I know that's in the contract, but just making sure we're
Have eyes on it while we're not.
we're monitoring that part of the contract too.
We don't need to do anything more with that though, right? It's already.
You don't need to make a motion to accept it.
I'll make a motion to accept or approve the YMCA contract. It's included in our packet.
I'll second.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the YMCA contract included in your board packet. All of those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Also included is the annual designations, which if you looked over, it's just a very long list of who is the person to do different things. So who has access to write checks, who has access to the credit card, who has access to who our lawyers are, who we've designated as our bank. All of those things are included in there.
Is this something we have to read aloud every year?
I don't know that it's
Read it
necessarily a
word for word?
requirement to read it aloud. I think we could probably include it in the packet, but I think if everyone's eyes are on it, I think, so every year, these are our annual designations. Sometimes they're, like, for example, Shelby's name is in here a few times as board chair, whereas mine would have been in there in the past. So it is important for every board member to look through and make sure that we know. I don't know that we necessarily have to read them all out loud, as long as we're familiar with them. I can read the headings here. It's MDE designations, it's designations of depositories. Rich, it is, keep going. Did you find it in the packet?
Still sorry.
Okay. Ryan, will
I
you
think
help
it's
point him
towards
to
the
it?
very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right before the YMCA contract.
So you just go to the all the way
Keep
to the
going,
end.
yeah. Getting close.
Right
There
there.
you go.
Yep. It's authorized signers at the bank. It is authorized individuals to approve collateral charges or changes, delegation of authority to make electronic funds transfers, granting of administrative authority, credit card authorization, designation of official newspaper, and pay rates for substitutes. I will tell you, in putting these together, the only things I changed was changing my name to Shelby's name, and then I increased the pay rate for the substitutes, because that's what you said the current rate, going rate was. Other than that, there haven't been any changes since last year. So I will make a motion to approve the annual designations.
Second.
Right, there's been a motion and a second to approve the annual designations. All of those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Annual meeting. We kind of touched on this last go around.
Yeah, I don't know how much more, maybe you don't need to have any more discussion. I wasn't sure.
Well, it's September.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
next
God-
meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
did you know that?
Yeah.
So move to September, and I think we generally talked about having it a pretty regular meeting, just with a strategic planning focus, so that update, Kathy would kind of
Gotcha.
dive more into
Yeah.
it.
So more of like a presentation on,
Yeah.
okay.
On the strategic plan.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
What's the difference between the annual meetings and the regular meetings?
We have to pick one meeting a year to be our annual meeting, and honestly, we get to kind of choose what that means for us. I'll tell you, in past years, we've done nothing different. It's just been a regular meeting, and we've called it our annual meeting. Other times, we have done more of a presentation focus and tried to invite more parents to attend. So we have invited, like, for example, this presentation would have been something very similar to what we would have done at an annual meeting. So we kind of, as a board, get to decide what we want our annual meeting to look like. And I think it sounds like last month you all talked about trying to have like a strategic planning focus for this year's annual meeting, but really it's up to us as to what the difference is.
And then we are also moving them to Thursdays moving forward in September, is right?
So that's,
Yeah.
was approved on the, yeah.
Yeah.
the approved on the calendar, yep. The date should be a Thursday.
Yeah, Thursday.
I didn't know if we wanted the last couple of years, we've invited new staff to, I think, this meeting. I don't think
We
would,
typically do,
or
yeah.
that they were, but I don't know if that would be something part of,
Invite them.
just invite, I don't know.
Yep.
Just encouraging them to maybe attend to that meeting if
I think that's a
if
really
they
good
want
idea.
to. And then they can at least hear the strategic plan, even though they've already heard it,
Yeah,
but.
this is a good idea.
and-
Will you take care of that? Okay.
I got those written down.
Good.
And I think, Mandy, if we missed the last meeting, the idea was in highlighting strategic planning at this new annual meeting idea is really just to get all our stakeholders on board, but this is our vision for the
Yeah.
next, 3 years.
I love it.
Improved academics, improved community, and maintain our good finances. So we'll have some fun with that.
We also thought we might get more of a bump in parent, I think, enrollment, or not.
Attendance, yeah.
Attendance. Wow.
Since it's the first.
Have pizza.
Yeah.
We should promote snacks. We should bring
Yeah.
snacks.
We should have food trucks.
We can work on that.
Being social.
Uh-huh.
Board communication and future items. So Thursdays moving forward. And there was something else I was going to touch on, but I forgot it now.
Let me let you think on it. I was going to actually maybe ask Ashley to introduce herself and tell what her role is at the school this year.
Right.
So the board knows.
I've had kids in the school since the old building, so this is really exciting to have the new building. And I'm president of the PTO this year. We've really lost quite a few members of the PTO, unfortunately, mostly because our kids outgrew the school, which is too bad, but necessary. So we're just hoping to get a lot of parent involvement now that COVID is kind of over and more in-person stuff, events.
Would you want to do anything at the annual meeting? Would you want to do like let the PTO, I don't know, this is honestly just an idea.
Maybe. I can think of something.
I don't know.
We can talk about it. Yeah, you can talk to Kathy about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it'll be, they have been really creative for the last few years in the ways that they have held events, not only because a lot of them had to be virtual, but then we also have had this ongoing construction, so we didn't have enough parking and a lot of space, and so they've been very, very creative in the way that they've tried to keep our community thriving through COVID and through expansion. So this will be an exciting year to have hopefully both of those in our past, and so we'll have new space to have events, and that'll be great. Thank you, Ashley.
And I remembered.
Okay, good.
Tomorrow is open house, so
Oh,
as board
yes.
members, if any of you would like to come to the open house tomorrow,
Yes.
what time does
Actually,
it
even more
start?
specifically, they were wanting to know if we wanted to have a table to meet and greet and chat with parents. So I know. And there'll be food trucks. Well, so I was gonna maybe just have a quick conversation about it, because you said you think you might be able to be here.
For part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
What time does it start? 4. So I wouldn't get here that early.
Is it?
I work until 4.
4 to 7.
It's 4 to 7, and the alphabet is like first half and second half.
Yeah, we're
kind
kind
of
of recommending that parents come first half, second half, just because of parking.
Yeah, I got kids that their last names are different, so they fall in both categories.
Oh, so you'll be here all night?
All night.
So I plan on being here at 5.
Okay, good,
But
okay.
I can help out if you all need something.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking, because you'll be in your classroom the whole time.
Right.
And you'll be.
I'll be sitting right by the table that's
Okay.
designated as the board director's table.
Yeah.
So
There you go.
I
I'll
don't know what
sit
your availability
right in
is,
the
but
middle.
we're opposite, because you're an S and I'm an F, meaning your
Yeah.
kids would be here opposite
Yeah,
times. So I
I'll
don't
be here
know.
from the whole time, but in a different capacity.
Different capacity.
Oh, so you'll be together too.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well,
It'd be you.
I'll be there, yes,
I
I'll be
can
here.
do the
with-
5:30 to 7,
Okay,
if you want to do the 4 to 5:30.
I can do that.
Okay.
So I might miss my
Here we go.
workout for my kids, but I'll just have them.
Well, you can sneak away too.
Yeah. So, okay, perfect. Then I'll plan to be here at the beginning, and then I'll probably sneak out for a little bit to
Yeah.
get the kids' stuff settled, and then, okay. And it sounds like between Rich and Jolene.
Yeah, I'll be around.
We'll get it covered. Okay. I was trying to think of what we'd even put on our table. What would you guys want to see on that? We could take
A meeting
your
schedule.
Yeah.
Meeting schedule.
Meeting schedule.
Yeah.
Meeting schedule.
And the committees, like here are committees that we have.
Yeah.
Board schedule, yeah.
Rich wants pizza on the table.
Okay. I'm seeing a theme here. Yeah. Okay.
I do have one more thing,
Okay.
not related to that, but in our VOA timeline, September, we're supposed to have like lawyer
Yeah.
coming and
He's coming. Oh, well, it is the annual meeting. I don't know if that's weird, but he is scheduled to come do two trainings.
Okay. And then it says academic committee, but we didn't have that. Present template for academic reports, so I don't know, Megan Nath come and just review the MCA stuff or somebody?
Yep. Say that again. Academic,
Well, the thing
academic
says
update, yeah.
present template and how train board members on how to review academic data and the assessment calendar.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's getting to be a big meeting.
No,
I know.
because I also have a governance thing.
All right,
All right.
it's business.
Yep. All right. Our next meeting will be held here in this room then again, from now on, right? Our new location.
This is it. So,
All right.
we might have to change the look at, but, I'm not sure if a lot of the annual meeting, if it'll be virtual, if we're gonna have a lot of people show up, if we anticipate that, we will have to move to the third floor cafeteria.
Okay.
It's difficult to hear in the gym.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. 5:30 on Thursday, September 22nd. Does anyone want to make a motion to
I'll make a
adjourn?
motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All right. There has been a motion and a second to adjourn tonight's meeting. All of those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed, say no. Abstentions? Motion carries.
My first
We are
motion
done.
tonight.
Just in time.
Yeah.